Hello everyone and welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And our little winless run has come to an end. It was a disappointing evening, but there was some positives to take from it as well. At the Amex Stadium against a inconsistent Brighton and Hove Albion this season. We know on their day they're a great team. They play good football. De Zerbi is an attacking manager, very much like our own manager and Ange Postecoglou. So we knew it was going to be an open game. Both teams with injuries. Brighton have had a lot of injuries come recently in this season. We've obviously been dealing with ours in and out. We thought we were getting back to a good stage, only for us to find out Romero is going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks, which means once again a makeshift back line. Emerson Royale getting the nod, coming into the centre-back position in this game. I feel like there were some decisions that Ange could have gone with that he didn't, and ultimately I feel like that was a mistake at times. Lo Celso, I feel, should have come on earlier in the game. I know there were people calling for him at half-time. I think the creative spark that he would have given us certainly would have helped. And although, yes, he did give away a penalty in the game with that silly tackle from behind in the box, the second he came on, I know we were 3-0 down, which didn't help. It was way too late to bring him on. But the second he came on, the energy... he got on the ball straight away, was trying to make things happen. And I think bringing him on a little bit earlier in the game, before we're 3-0 down, possibly turns the game in our favour earlier. But it was one of those nights, it wasn't meant to be. We were a little bit off it all night, I thought, until sort of the last 15 minutes, really, when Brighton started making changes, sat back a bit. Yes, we created chances throughout the game. Richarlison, still technically in form. He had the ball in the back of the net twice. He hit the post. So, if he's just a yard, that little yard, he has a habit of being offside. We've seen it ever since he started with us. He hit at one point, he'd scored more goals from offside positions than he actually had in game play itself onside. So yeah, his finishing definitely not a problem at the moment. You can see that confidence is still there. So I'm not really going to criticise Richarlison's ability to finish in this game. It's one of them. It just wasn't his night, and ultimately it wasn't our night. I think defensively at times it was Ben Davies on his own. I will say Destiny Udogie I thought was excellent getting up and down the pitch for most of the game. He became a real attacking threat towards the end of the game, to the point where we didn't really see him defend at all, taking up those wide positions and coming in centrally. Sonny I thought was very off the pace. Now there's going to be people that will say it's to do with the fact that he's got the Asian Cup coming up, but as you will know on this channel, as good as I think Sonny is, I have always said that I feel like he can go missing in games, and it was another one of them. And although he has world-class moments, I think this is the one thing that stops him from being a truly world-class player, and probably why we've never seen anyone really come in with a proper attempt to take him off our hands. I just feel like over the course of a season, he's not consistent enough. Yes, he had that great season where he was Golden Boot winner, but apart from that, I don't think we've ever seen a truly remarkable season where he's been consistent in every game. And it's still the thing that I just don't get with him, why he can't be consistent in every game, because he has the talent, he has the pace. He just has games like tonight where he just doesn't really take people on properly. He slows the game down more than he should. Obviously, we had to... The bench wasn't as strong as we thought it was going to be, because Oliver Skipp actually was ruled out as well with a knock, although he is expected to be back for the New Year's Eve match at home against Bournemouth. So Postecoglou in this one, despite the fact that we thought we were getting people back, we were 9 first-team players unavailable for this trip. And our bench was pretty much full of youngsters. So we were looking to get a victory to get back in the top 4 after Man City leapfrogged us with their win against Everton on Wednesday night. However, Brighton took the lead 12 minutes in against our makeshift back line. Too easy for João Pedro to dribble across the edge of our box, past a few challenges, and then knocked the ball to the young Jack Hinshelwood, who lashed home a powerful strike. They doubled their advantage after referee Jared Gillett was advised to go to his screen. The second he went to his screen, we knew it was going to be a penalty. But if you were watching the game, you would have known it was going to be a penalty anyway. Whether you think it's a soft one or not, the fact is, you grab somebody's shirt and pull them. There was quite a bit of distance between the grab and the player itself. So the shirt was actually quite stretched. And I just felt, yeah, it was a stupid thing to do from Kulusevski and cost us. And we're making a lot of these silly mistakes, like all the red cards. We gave away 2 penalties in this game. And I know Ange was saying, disciplinary-wise, he doesn't feel like he needs to have conversations with the players. But I feel like if you want to finish in the top 4, if you want to push to win the title, you need to get these silly little mistakes out of your game. Because there are things in the Premier League that you are going to get punished for. You can't get away with pulling somebody's shirt so blatantly in the box. You can't be making rash challenges in the box like Lo Celso did. You're not going to get away with it. And against a team like Brighton, that are on their day really good, but they've had inconsistencies. And I feel like, had we not made those silly mistakes, yes, had we had a few more players available, we probably would have done them. Had we made changes earlier in the game, I feel like we could have done them. But ultimately, it wasn't to be. So yeah, that was for the foul on Danny Welbeck as he was trying to shoot. And then that was dispatched by João Pedro. We began probing for a goal, really trying, but then we were sucker punched for Brighton's third. Dipping strike from distance from a former target of ours, Pervis Estupiñán. Lovely goal, really, but shouldn't have been afforded the time to shoot from where he did. It was a clever corner, quickly taken by James Milner, who seems to have been around for years and years. They were talking during the game that I think was it 6 or 8 of 8 of the players for Brighton weren't even born when James Milner made his debut. He did actually make his debut. I think it was 16 years old, so young. So that was 3. Lovely goal in the far corner. Then they got their 4th after a lunging tackle by Giovanni Lo Celso on Evan Ferguson, which resulted in the penalty, which Pedro again scored. And what annoyed me about the penalty is Lo Celso, yes, had to try and make a challenge, but from the position he was, it was never going to be the right one. He tried to go through the player's legs, which is never a good thing. But he never lunged his foot through, which is what I thought was very strange. It was almost like he went for the challenge, but kind of tried to pull out of it, but it was a bit too late. So his leg wasn't fully extended. Had he fully extended his leg, it might have gone right through the legs and actually nicked the ball, and that might have saved him there. And it was frustrating for Lo Celso because he's a player that probably should have been our saving grace with Maddison out injured, hasn't had consistent game time, had a little injury himself, comes back in from the bench, starts off really well, and then gives a penalty away fairly quickly. But yeah, they scored that. So we're 4-0 down within like 60-something minutes. But we did get a goal back as youngster Alejo Veliz scored his first goal for the club. So I think that was his 7th substitute appearance for us. Hasn't really had many minutes at all, but you've got Sonny going off to the Asian Cup. Richarlison obviously had his operation, has come back, and he seems a lot better, but I think they're kind of protecting him a little bit in games. They have been taking him off as games have worn on, and I think that's partly because we've got so many injuries and we need to keep him fresh and fully fit for whilst Sonny is off, because Veliz is obviously going to be the only striking option that we've actually got as a natural striker if we need to move Richarlison out to the left or right, or even take him off in the game. So that's great for Veliz, really happy for him. Although it looked like a scrappy goal, I think he took it quite well. He did this classic thing that strikers are taught to do, and he hit it into the ground, which makes it difficult for the keeper. I think from that distance and the keeper's positioning, had he hit it straight at goal with no bounce, I actually think the keeper saves it. So it's smarter than it looked, the finish. And then Ben Davies added another goal, heading in Porro's cross. We had some late chances as well. Højbjerg himself hit the post late on, and the follow-up wasn't great. We just couldn't find our way back, and it was very much, even at that point of the game, there were still chances for Brighton as well, because obviously we were committing more and more men forward, which meant they were able to break. So talking about the players themselves, in goal Vicario, he made 2 early saves from Danny Welbeck. One, from the angle it was, I think is a pretty standard save. The second one was a really good reaction save from close range. And what I loved about it is he was pretty much down on the floor, popped up really quickly. His weight wasn't distributed very evenly and still managed to make the reaction save. He's saved us so many times, and the fact that he conceded 4 goals, it would make it sound like he had a bad evening between the sticks, but he didn't whatsoever. 2 of them were penalties. It's always a gamble, and the other 2 he couldn't really do anything about. He was beaten by the power of Inshelwood's strike, and then soon after saved Pedro's effort. He made a 1v1 save from the same player after having been sent the wrong way by Pedro's penalty earlier on. Couldn't do anything about Estupinion's superb shot from distance, and then got sent the wrong way by Pedro again from the spot. Yeah, conceded 4 goals, but he could have been so much more just in that first half, but for his excellent display. And really, this keeper is just going from strength to strength. I think he's absolutely incredible, an absolute bargain. It's proving. I think he's probably, at the moment, for me, the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. Pedro Porro at right back. Played a loose pass that put Pedro away for a big chance late in the first half. Had a pretty tough night actually down the right up against Pedro for much of it. I thought Pedro played really, really well and caused our Pedro problems. Did grab the late assist with his... It was a lovely cross for Davies. Although frustratingly, we got a free kick later in the game, and you could see how frustrated he was himself. He just played the ball so far over the players. It was ridiculous. It was so overhit. Emerson Royale coming into centre-back. He looked like a full-back trying to play centre-back in this game, which, to be fair, is exactly what he is. It didn't work at all. He struggled with Porro next to him and dealing with Pedro. It was a really poor night for him. And ultimately, I think Ange Postecoglou just has to accept that Eric Dyer is probably needed. I think the intelligence that Dyer and Davies have should have been enough to get us through this game, and I feel like there'd have been less defensive errors with Dyer in the lineup regardless of what anybody else thinks. And I actually think when he had to come on for the injured Romero in the last game, he didn't play anywhere near as bad as people were making out. I thought he was actually one of the better performers on the pitch at the time. So then, talking of the partner to be, Ben Davies seemed to be defending it by himself at times as the back line just went completely AWOL. He headed in a late goal himself with a fine effort on the run. And he's a player, I'm not going to criticise him in this game. He's been excellent. A lot has been asked of him, so no criticisms for Ben Davies, really. Destiny Udogie on the left. Interesting night. Worked very hard. He was back in the team after his suspension. Had a chance to score in the second half, but was denied by Steele. Not his best performance on his return, but I will say there was lots of energy from him. And his best part of his performance actually came in the last 15 minutes where we were really pushing on, but ultimately too little too late. Moving on to midfield, Pap Matassar wasn't the best night for him either, really. Some bright moments on the ball, but once again, and I think this is really because of his age and maybe the amount of running that he does, so really sloppy moments as well. And then he was replaced midway through the second half. Next to him, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, as usual, running about constantly, plenty of hustle and bustle, no real impact in the match moving forward in the first half. He was much better in the second half as it wore on. He hit the right-hand post himself with a decent shot late on, which could have set up a last big chance. A few minutes had it bounced in. And he's one of those that I just feel like he hasn't played enough football this season to really give the performances that we've known of him over the last few seasons. Lots of links with him going away in January, and I think it very much depends on whether we can get a replacement in, someone like a Colin Gallagher. And it will depend on the money we can get for him, because apparently Gallagher's quoted at Chelsea want 50 million to entertain for him. I think we might be able to knock Chelsea down to 45 million. I think that's realistic. And if we can get 25 to 30 million for Højbjerg, or a loan with an option to buy / obligation. I think Spurs are holding out for an obligation, but I think Højbjerg is the sort of player, if he goes on loan to any top club, I think can prove himself that even with an option, they will take it up. So we'll see, although I'd rather have him round for the rest of the season. Kulusevski once again on the inside of midfield rather than out in the front three. Gifted Brighton the penalty by grabbing Welbeck's shirt in the box. Earned himself his 5th yellow card of the season as well. So that means he misses the match against Bournemouth, which is it's just chaos, isn't it? It's not just injuries. We're losing players to suspension. Obviously, Bazuma's suspended again. Romero has been suspended. Udogie's had suspension. There's a lot going on, and I feel like the discipline is just a key thing when we're losing so many players to injury. To then lose Decky, who I think has been amazing in the midfield, it's crazy. It was a stupid thing to do in the box. He should know better. But anyway, his tackle actually set up play for Valise's goal. He also took Dunk's studs to his ankle in the process. Like, he's a real battler, Kulusevski. I do like him, and I do accept the way we play football means at times we are going to pick up bookings, but ultimately the players need to be a bit more sensible in certain situations. Moving on to the front three, Brennan Johnson. He's really frustrating me because at moments he can look really good, but ultimately I think he just makes late decisions or sometimes the wrong decisions. He had an opportunity when running through in the first half, but hesitated, then fluffed his effort, threatened to make an impact. And that's what he does. He threatens to make an impact, but ultimately it hasn't really come off for him yet in a Spurs shirt. I have no doubts it will eventually. He's a very talented player. He's got a decent chunk of pace, but at the moment his decision making just isn't quite there. I think I remember a moment where he took a shot where he definitely should have played the ball into the box to other players, but he's young, he'll learn. Sonny struggled to make an impact in the first half, did grab an assist late in the game for Valise's goal, and that's all I can really say about his game. I just feel like he wasn't getting the ball out of his feet quick enough in this game, and yeah, he just frustrated me. And then moving on to the last man of the starting lineup, Richarlison, the man playing through the middle, struck the left hand post in the first half with a deflected shot, had 2 efforts ruled out for offside, worked really hard before coming off in the second half, and I wouldn't say he played badly. It was just, for him, it was a frustrating and unlucky night. He worked hard. Ultimately, I don't think we created enough for him, which is crazy to say considering that he hit the post and had 2 efforts ruled out for offside. I just feel like our decision making in the build up to things maybe wasn't quick enough. You could argue that yes, he put himself in an offside position, but if balls were played quicker as well, he wouldn't have been offside. So swings and roundabouts. Moving on to the subs, Lo Celso was brought on way too late, as I've already said. Gave away the penalty with that lunge on Ferguson, but did contribute to our improved attacking game late on. And I think this game really, the way it was, I say it was in the balance. It's just that Brighton managed to score their goals. I mean, we helped them by giving them 2 penalties, but ultimately they took their chances better than we did. So that's why they're in the lead, which is why I think it would have been important to bring him on earlier to make a difference, because you could see the second he came on, he's fresher than a lot of the players because he hasn't played as many minutes. And I think ultimately, like when Newcastle played against us and I said they looked really tired because of the amount of games that the players had to play at the intensity for as many minutes as they do with their injuries, you kind of saw elements of that in this game. Sonny looking a bit tired. Sarr has not long been back from injury, so as young and fit as he is, I think as the games wear on, he's getting tired. And it just at times did look a bit sloppy. But yeah, Lo Celso, I think, would have been the man to bring on a bit earlier. Brian Hill came on. He tried to make an impact, but ultimately didn't. There was times where you could see that he's still just a little bit too weak. He's got the trickery. He's very good at turning a player. A lot of the times he will try and take his man on, but because he's not that strong, he just doesn't quite get it. So a lot of his crosses end up being blocked. And he's not the tallest as well, so his stride length isn't as big as the defenders that he's coming up against. But ultimately, I can't really fault his effort. He tried. Then, Valise grabbed his first goal for the club with a bouncing effort, which was he was delighted with. You could see that. So if any of you watched the Man United game where Højlund got the winner, obviously he's played a lot more minutes than Valise and went mental, and rightly so. You can see how much it means for these young strikers coming into the teams in the Premier League. And I think he did all right when he come on. He had another smart turn and shot that was blocked late on, and it was a great little cameo for him. It's very good for his confidence, and I'm hoping that means Ange uses him a bit more as games wear on and maybe gives him a start at some point. We shall see. It won't be this side of Christmas, but we did pretty much get told that we weren't really going to see Veliz before Christmas, and we've seen him a few times. I feel like injuries have forced Ange to use him since he's been in, but yeah, I think safely we can say he's all right, but there is a possibility he could end up even going out on loan, because we've got a situation now where I don't know how much everybody's been keeping up with the news, but Dane Scarlett will be coming back to the club after his disappointing loan with Ipswich. Hasn't really been able to make an impact for them at all. He's a very talented player. Ange believes in him. Every manager that's had him believes he's going to be great. But the problem is we're going to have this situation where we've got these two very good young strikers at the club at the same time. So where are they going to get their minutes? Well, we know that. So basically my point is with this, Dane Scarlett now can't go back out on loan because he's not only played minutes in the league, he's also played in the Carabao Cup as well. So EFL rules mean he now can't go back out on loan. So he's going to stay at the club for the rest of the season. So it's a question of, do we send Veliz out to gain more experience, or do we end up keeping them both in the hope that they can make some sort of impact in the first team squad? But ultimately, I think the way they'll do it, if Veliz doesn't go out on loan, he will remain the one with the first team squad for matches. Dane Scarlett will probably see his place as being involved in training, but then getting his minutes for the under 23s who are flying anyway. So he'll go into a good side. Or does that mean someone like Jamie Donnelly then goes back down to the under 23s on match day squads, and we see Dane Scarlett be the one that has another spot on the bench? I mean, I don't know. But also just some good news that kind of keeps us in the hunt for top four. It's not the end of the world, this result. West Ham have actually beaten Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium 2-0. Thomas Souček and Mavropanos with the 2 goals there. 13 minutes in and 55 minutes in. So as much as we don't like West Ham, we hate Arsenal. So West Ham have done us a little bit of a favour there tonight to save our graces on a night where we've lost. So what does that mean for the Premier League table? Well, Liverpool sit top of the league on 42 points after 19 games. Arsenal sit second on 40 points. Aston Villa third on 39 points. Man City are fourth with 37 points, but they do have a game in hand. So if they win that, they will go second on goal difference, leapfrogging Arsenal. We now sit fifth on 36 points. So we're still not far off top spot anyway. I mean, I don't think we'd ever push for the league title this season anyway. We've had way too many injuries, too many suspensions creeping in. So I think we're too far off the pace now to do that, even though it's not many points at all. But ultimately, top four, we're 1 point off, but ultimately we're going to be a few more points off, because I expect Man City to probably pick up another win, and we're heading into the Christmas, so we'll be going to the second half of the season where we know Man City really push on. And Villa, I mean, it's crazy, but you actually look at West Ham now, that puts them up to sixth on 33 points. So they're only 3 points off the pace of us, which means, West Ham are in contention for top four themselves. It's mental. And then you head into seventh with Manchester United on 31 points. Brighton actually stayed where, Brighton are now 8th on 30 points. So they've leapfrogged Newcastle with that, and then we're down to Chelsea in 10th. That is absolutely mental. There's plenty of teams that could do a bit of damage. So up next for us, yes, we've got Bournemouth at home. They've been on a good little run themselves. Players scoring goals. They are sitting Bournemouth in 12th. They are on 25 points, but they've only played 18. So yeah, a very interesting season nonetheless. But yeah, we're going to be missing Decky for the next game. So that, in my head, that probably means Lo Celso gets a definite start, because the attacking role has been Decky's in that 3 in midfield. And our most attacking midfielder that we've got at the club that is fit and eligible to play without suspension is Lo Celso. So I would expect that he'll play in that game. Hopefully he comes in and starts the way he did. I know he gave away the penalty, but the way he was playing was certainly good. But although I think the fight back towards the end of the game will give players confidence, it's not the end of the world. It's one that hurts, but ultimately we know Brighton are very well drilled and it was going to be an open game, as I said at the beginning. So, shall we have a look at just a few of the stats before we go from this game? Let me just come out of the Arsenal stuff. Although I do very much enjoy having a look at the fact that Arsenal lost. That does make me happy. Yeah, so the match stats look like this. Possession, we actually came out on top with 54.1. And I think a lot of that definitely comes down to that late surge in the second half. Brighton had 15 shots. We had 19. They had 9 on target. We had a measly 3 shots on target, with 8 of ours being off target and 8 of them being blocked. They had 3 off target and 3 blocked. Passing wise, both teams managed over 80%. Ours 84.9. They made 4 clear cut chances to our 1. 7 corners for them, 6 to us. They had 2 offsides. We had a staggering 5. Tackles was not great for us tonight. We only won 43.8% of our tackles and they won 81.3%. Duels in the air was 50-50. Still only had to make 1 save, whereas Vicario had to make 5. They committed more fouls than us with 18. We only committed 6. We won 18 fouls. Yeah. There was 3 yellow cards for them and 2 for us. Obviously, one of those resulting in a suspension for Kulusevski and no red cards in the game. And the form of both teams, so you look at it, heading back, they have won 1, 2, 3 of their last 6 now, 2 draws and a loss, and we have drawn 1, lost 2, and we did win the 3 on the bounce. That was the 4-1 win against Newcastle, 2-0 against Nottingham Forest, and 2-1 against Everton. So form-wise, we're actually doing all right. I have no doubts we'll be okay moving forward. I've said this, I feel like the fringe players are kind of starting to get it. I think maybe Ben Davies having to partner Emerson Royale is not helping, and I feel the fact that Royale next to Porro also doesn't help. So I think maybe Ange will have to accept that we need somebody a bit more experienced than Emerson Royale in there. I know he's got the pace, but ultimately he divers on the ball for too long. Dyer is a much better passer of the ball as well. He's better in the air. Royale's just got a bit more pace, and I think he reads tackles a bit better. But I think ultimately, in my opinion, I would put Dyer back into the squad. But I'll let you argue that out and slag me off in the comments, because I know there's plenty of people out there that do not like Dyer. But look, that's it for today. Thanks for sticking around. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. And until next time, come on you Spurs.